Hey guys, here we go into a video on Anthony Joshua's chances in his rematch against Andy Ruiz. And I think that Joshua performed much better in this fight than I thought he was going to. I talk a lot about like active guard and an active guard system, not staying on the line with your opponent being very important, and having an active guard and constantly shifting your weight changes the way that your opponent is going to attack you. And it changes the way that you attack your opponent as well. But by constantly moving your head and getting off the line and giving your opponent different looks, it makes them reset. Because every time that you transition your weight, it's the same motion that you would make if you were slipping a punch or throwing a punch. And this is very, very, very important. Because if you're not doing those kinds of things, then you're only going to have a reactive defense to your opponent, and you're going to be much more predictable with your motions, as we're going to see as we take a look at this film. So right away, Anthony Joshua coming out doing the right thing. And look at how he's matching every time Ruiz moves, right? He matches him, right? And that's going to be very important that they fight at the same tempo. Now this is something that I don't talk a lot about on my channel, just because most of the time, when you have one guy with an active guard, he's fighting a guy who's kind of freezing himself or getting frozen by the other guy's active guard system, and they kind of get lost. But as you see, right, every time he makes a move, right, Joshua controls him with the jab, and Ruiz catches the jab and goes to shoot his own jab to the body. But because Joshua is not committing to this jab, because it's part of his active guard, he's only feinting, he's only probing with this shot to get Ruiz out of position. He's able to block that shot. But what I want you to focus on here is how they're going to be matching each other's tempo and their rhythm, right? Catch, right? Every time he moves, there's a pattern to the way that they move, right? When he goes to shoot his shot, notice Ruiz moves his head off the line when he punches, right? This is also a big deal for the fight. And it's something that Joshua's going to need to work on, but there are other things that are going to be more important before Joshua can get to the stage where he can comfortably move his head off the line. And we'll get to that at the end of the video. But just watch Joshua as he's matching the rhythm, right? Look at how... Now, this one's not so bad, getting his head off the line when he shoots this hook, right? But look at how he kind of gets stuck there on the line. And we'll talk about why this is a little bit later. But notice, this is one of the first times that he finds himself off rhythm with Ruiz, right? And not able to kind of match his hand speed or his weight transition speed. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later. But I just want to focus on the first few rounds as he continues to feint and control Ruiz, right? Now Ruiz looking to counterpunch here, right? Off of Joshua's attacks, but part of this is because of the fact that Joshua is controlling him with his own active guard. Every time Ruiz makes a weight transition, Joshua's right there with him, transitioning his weight as well. And as you can see, right, controlling him, changing weights, moving angles, and every time Ruiz comes forward, right, Joshua is feinting him here. And now here, again, Joshua picked up earlier in the fight that Ruiz was looking to counterpunch off of those timings because of the fact that Joshua was controlling him so well. I'm not sure if I'm explaining that super well either what I mean, but as Ruiz steps forward, right, he starts moving off the line. Joshua moves off the line. As he steps forward, right, Joshua changes angles. As he steps forward, Joshua controls him with the jab, controls him with the jab, controls him with the jab, and then Ruiz looks to counter that jab right there with his own hook here. But Joshua has seen that he's trying to catch him with the hook and throws a right hand right there. And again, Joshua gets stuck on the line here, right? And then that allows Ruiz, who has a little bit better footwork, and we'll talk about why later, catches Joshua on the line. But what I want you to focus on is the rhythm between the two fighters and how Joshua maintains his active guard and fights at the same tempo that Ruiz does, right? So again, every time he's giving little small steps, feinting forward, right? Every time Ruiz steps forward, Joshua feints him a little bit, right? Transitioning his weight to his front foot a little bit, right? Giving him different looks, making him think that these punches are coming. And that's enough to keep Ruiz from pressing forward and using his own active guard and using his own experience and his own boxing IQ against him because of the fact that Joshua is in the same position. He's always in position transitioning his weight with Ruiz to counter the active guard that Ruiz has, right? And what I mean by this is that when Ruiz makes an adjustment here, right, if Joshua didn't react to this and control his hand, that means that he's going to be out of position for the counter, right? Which means that the right hand is going to be able to come much more easily off of this shot, right? Because of the difference in the I think a guy in my channel calls it broken. Oh no, is it broken rhythm? I don't know. I don't know if that's how you explain it with the Jeff Horn example, but as you see here, controlling him with the lead hand, right? As he comes forward, control. Every time he steps forward, Joshua gives him a different look, right? Control, shifting his weight to his left leg so he can come back with a left hook, right? Or shifting his weight to his left leg so he could throw a right hand, right? Now notice when he does that, Ruiz brings his hand up, right? And that's what I mean. There's this push and pull between both fighters reacting to each other's active guards and each other's feints that remains constant for a lot of the fight. Now touch gloves, and now when they go to re-engage, right, Ruiz kind of outthought him on this one. Joshua thinking, oh, it's going to be another glove touch, right? And on the same rhythm, Ruiz looks to shoot a different shot instead. He moves his head off the line and shoots the jab, right? Just kind of pay attention to the push and pull between them and how Joshua is constantly looking to probe and feint. Now again, Joshua looking to bait that counter jab again from him and go over the right hand, or over the jab with his right hand. Now this is really important because that's part of the reason why Ruiz doesn't throw nearly as many punches throughout the course of the fight, is because Joshua has control of him, right? See how he controls him with the jab? He's got these little tiny motions, right? And he's able to control and feint him, use those different looks that he's giving him to keep Ruiz off balance. But not, I don't want to say off balance, but to keep him in check and not allow him to use his own feints and his own probes from his own active guard to put Joshua out of position, right? And that's the whole goal, right? Is to get your opponent out of position. And if you have more going on in your active guard, you're gonna find opportunities where your opponent is not in place to counter, block, slip, or roll your attacks because you moved into a position they're not ready to defend, right? And that's what Joshua is brilliantly doing here, is making sure that he's always in a position to control Ruiz, right? Or time him on that same timing, to control him and defend himself when he looks to attack. Now again, right, moving off the line, he's doing a good job of matching the pace. And this is only the first round. This is going to be a long video. You probably already realized that. But look at how when he shoots this hook, right, and he ducks, right? That's not exactly moving his head off the line. It's a good defensive responsibility, getting his head off the line after, right? But he's not transferring his weight. And we'll talk about this at the end of the video, what he needs to work on to do that. But the only thing I want you guys to focus on is the rhythm, the active guard, and how Joshua, look at how he circles, right? Normally, a lot of fighters will stay in the same position. Notice how his left hand, when he transfers his weight to his left leg here, his left hand is low, right? But he's also moving off the line from what would be a regular right hand, right? Because the right hand would go straight past Joshua's right side of his face if it came out straight, right? Otherwise, it would be a hook, right? And it would be easier to block and see coming. But anyway, again, the same rhythm, right? Constantly moving with Ruiz, right? Feint, 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 and then shoots a jab, right? And now watch Ruiz as he reacts. Feinted, 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 right? And he's maintaining this tempo for Ruiz, and it makes it very hard for Ruiz to get on the inside. And it's not because of his height, it's not because of his reach. Joshua's just outboxing Ruiz in this case, right? And again, you know, this looks like it's from height, right? But as we already saw, Ruiz could move his head as well, right? Ruiz is also using his parry with his right hand to try and block that shot as well, but he's not doing a very good job, right? And Joshua moving his head a little bit when that shot comes, but it's because he's maintaining that control over Ruiz with those feints and that active guard and not being in a stale position. Even though it doesn't look like he's doing a lot, he's doing enough to match the amount of decisions that Ruiz is making, right? Ruiz is like, okay, step, transfer my weight here, step, transfer my weight here, and feint. And Joshua is matching all of that rhythm with him, right? And that allows Joshua to stay ahead because he's the one that's controlling Ruiz and keeping Ruiz from coming forward. Again, feinting, controlling him, and again, beautiful. Just watch this sequence, and this kind of encapsulates everything that I'm talking about. Not that part where he gets punched in the face. Let's not talk about that. But we're talking about what Joshua can do to win the rematch, right? Again, feinting, right? Feint. And every time he does that, right? Every time he leans to the front foot, right here, right? Look at how Ruiz has to move off the line, right? He has to get his head off the line because a straight right hand might come, and that could be enough to end the fight. So they have to respect each other's active guards, and the way this active guard system hides and sets up each other's offense. And again, matching Ruiz's tempo, right? When Ruiz looks to change angles, right? Joshua controls him. Change angles, step forward, right? He's able to time him and feint him and use that active guard system to break the layers of Ruiz's offense. Because now, because he's matching the rhythm, he's matching the tempo, and he's controlling him with the lead hand, Ruiz doesn't have the freedom to feint and get Joshua out of position because Joshua's maintaining the right positions to control Ruiz as he comes in. I hope I'm explaining that right. But again, knowing that Ruiz is looking to counter him with the hook off the jab and going in with the right hand there. You know, doing a very good job. But again, getting caught a little bit out of position after he punches. Right? He looks a little wild here. And we'll talk about that a little later at the end of the video. We're actually going to do some film study on Billy Joe Saunders to kind of demonstrate my point. But again, Joshua feinting, controlling him with the lead hand, right? And able to constantly win when Ruiz does throw punches, because he's matching the rhythm and matching the tempo, and he's always staying in position with him, and he's never slowing down, he's able to counter Ruiz after removing the layers of his offense. Again, great job here. He knows that what the rhythm is. Even though he misses his counter, right? He's on rhythm with him. Touch. What's the next weight transition that he's going to do? Throws the hook. What's the next weight transition? Move off the line. And it comes at the same pace that Ruiz is moving forward, right? Step, feint, right? And it's the same pace. And that's why he's able to keep Ruiz off balance, or I don't want to say off balance, but off of his own tempo, and unable to capitalize on his actual better speed, his better hand speed than Joshua. But again, great weight transitions, feinting him, right? And again, look at the active guard that Joshua's going to have here, right? When he takes this step here, stepping here, bring his hands up, feinting low. Again, complete control over Ruiz. And another thing that Joshua does is he moves off the line when his opponent attacks him, right? So when he's not countering, he just moves off the line, and that makes it even harder for him to pin him down. This is the problem that Joseph Parker had when fighting Joshua, is that Joshua would never stay on the line with him. Anytime Parker would throw one of his very, very basic feints at him, Joshua would just move off the line and be like, okay, bro, what was that? You know? But in this case, Joshua has control over Ruiz. He's feinting him. He's giving him different looks. He has his active guard. Ruiz is having a hard time pinning his head down and pinning down his targets. So when he does move out of his own guard and start attacking, Joshua can still just move off the line, even though Ruiz has a good active guard himself. But again, the same rhythm, right? Look at the tiny motions, the tiny weight transfers, and the feinting. He has the perfect rhythm to counter Ruiz and make and I don't know how to say it, but he's kind of exposing Ruiz in this regard, right? And then again, right, the same timing. He knows when to attack. He's fighting on the same rhythm, and he's able to land a great shot like that. And that's because of the fact that when he shoots the jab, right, he's been shooting the jab. In this particular case, he's been using the jab to set this left hook the whole time. And when he shoots this jab, Ruiz thinks it's going to be a jab to the body or even a jab to the head, and he looks to parry it, and he's able to land that beautiful shot. Now, this is really important because we get to see that Ruiz was really not having a lot of success on the outside. Joshua was feinting, moving with Ruiz, circling around the ring, controlling him with his lead hand, feinting him, and excuse me, and was able to use his own active guard to mitigate the effectiveness of Ruiz's active guard And as you can see, the first contact in nearly every engagement favored Joshua. He was able to outthink Ruiz moving forward in almost every situation. But notice how after he throws this hook, he gets stuck on the line and eats some punches. Again, we'll talk about that a little bit later. But again, Joshua, and I'm just going to play the video through now because I think you guys get what I mean. But look at this beautiful boxing. I think this is a full stream through. I think it's like 30 seconds of this round. But Joshua controlling him, giving him different looks. And look at the rhythm and the tempo that he's fighting at. You know, you don't have to have a lot of power. You don't have to put power into all your weight transitions because nobody wants to get punched in the face, right? But look at how Joshua is fighting with Ruiz and not trying to control the tempo and slow the tempo down, but he's accepting the tempo of the fight. And he's able to get in there, you know, and kind of do what he wants, feint him and control him, and then set up his own shots as you see here, right? The same shot. He's expecting the left hook to come here, so he's moving his head away from the left hook and then coming in with the right hand. Again, just doing a great job of setting up his shots, and then, you know, that just kind of happens. I don't know if there's like too much setup for that. You never want to stay on the line with your opponent. But again, Joshua is showing, feinting, right, that he's winning the exchanges. He's winning the actual boxing match that's going on between him and Ruiz by landing, by always being ahead at first contact. When he falls apart, though, is when he stays on the line with Ruiz, who punches with head movement, as we see in this clip right here. When he's going to throw this right hand, right? When he throws that right hand, Ruiz moves his head off the line, and Joshua does not move his head off the line when he throws his own right hand, and winds up getting caught with the counter left hook, right? And again, we'll talk about this a little bit later, what Joshua needs to work on to make sure he can get his head off the line. But as you can see, staying on the line is what cost him the fight, right? And it's going to be a small footwork change that I'm going to show you guys at the end of the video. But again, Joshua dominating the fight when he can control the pace and the tempo of the fight by fighting at Ruiz's tempo and giving him different looks at the same tempo that Ruiz gives him. To be honest, you guys, this is a brilliant fight, you guys. Anthony Joshua is not getting the credit that he deserves for fighting here, but he deserves a lot of credit. He fought a great fight for most of the fight that he wasn't getting punched in the face. Now, let's talk about what changes, right? Now we have Joshua slowing down a little bit after getting knocked down. And notice that Ruiz is going to be changing and transitioning weight more often than Joshua, right? Feint. So it's going to be feint, 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 right? And look at how often Joshua is changing his head slots now, right? He's hardly moving at all right now, right? And that allows Ruiz to come in because he's no longer setting his shots up, or because Joshua is no longer controlling the space, he's being stationary. That allows Ruiz to come forward and just start landing these haymaker shots, right? Notice the difference in tempo from the rest of the fight after the knockdown and what goes on here. And that's because Joshua gives up on his active guard, and he's kind of looking only to land his right hand. You can see his weight is stuck there on his front foot. He's looking to lean all his weight into his right hand, but Ruiz is able to keep that tempo and transition weight faster than Joshua and land these shots. And it's because Joshua, you know, again, gives up on his active guard. And this right here is the epitome of fighting a fighter who doesn't have an active guard for a fighter that does have an active guard, or that has good feints and controls their opponent well, right? Because he's able to throw this hook and get Joshua to roll into it, right? Because this hook is only to set up the right hand. Even though it lands, he does this to set the right hand up, to get Joshua, because Joshua is not transitioning weight as fast as Ruiz is, he's able to feint him with this hook, even though he commits to it, and get Joshua into a position where he's going to eat that big shot. And again, that's just because of the weight transition. That's just because Joshua started slowing down a little bit and stopped taking, I don't want to say he wasn't taking the fight as seriously as he should, but that's exactly what happened. Now we're going to go back into the fourth round, and I want you to watch Joshua coming forward, stepping on his right foot, right? Feinting, forward, right? And he's fighting again at the same tempo that Ruiz was, right? Giving him different looks, controlling him with the lead hand, right? Even though it looks like he's just standing there. Well, right there he is just standing there. But again, feinting forward, giving him different looks, transferring his weight, and not being stationary, right? Because that's That's the real key, is to always be in motion against your opponent. As you can see, Joshua is doing a great job of that, right? As Ruiz is coming forward, every time he comes forward, right? Every time he steps forward, brings his hands up, Joshua reacts. Joshua reacts. Joshua reacts. Joshua reacts. And now he's on the same tempo for reacting to parry that jab and land a left hook right there and then push him off. Again, maintaining the fighting at the same tempo with his opponent, right? Giving him different looks, transitioning his weight, controlling him when he needs to control him. And again, he's able to break the layers of offense and effective feinting that Ruiz has, and again, land a great left hook. Let's just watch this scene again, just so you can get it. Watch how they're in tandem. They're exactly the same, right? And this is the epitome of, like, great boxing, you guys. Again, great control of him, great use of his own active guard to mitigate the effectiveness of Ruiz's active guard, and again, doing a great job. Again, feinting, giving him different looks, and fighting on the same rhythm and weight transition to control Ruiz. Now, there's a lot left in this video, so I'm just going to keep playing it like I said I was going to before, but just watch it, and we'll see again when Joshua starts failing, and we'll rewind it. Again, I think it's right here. Joshua stops fighting on the same rhythm. And notice how instead of he's leaning into that shot, and now Ruiz is making more weight transitions than he is, right? Notice right here, when that shot comes, he's just kind of plodding along, and then he gets feinted here, leaves his hand out, and eats a body shot because he stops fighting at that same rhythm, right? Again, and then goes back to it, right? Feinting the right hand, controlling with the lead hand, feinting again, and he goes back to it to get control of Ruiz again. But notice, every time he stops using it, again, every time he stops controlling the space, like he's going to do here, look at how he starts walking off, and he's no longer transitioning his weight at the same pace that Ruiz is, right? Feint. And he feints him, and he's able to feint him out of position right there and kind of land a shot. But that's why Joshua starts falling behind, is because he starts letting go of his active guard. He starts getting a little complacent. And again, the same thing, right? Now he's not doing the same thing. He's staying there. He's laying there. That's a good shot right there. But he's not feinting and controlling him at the same pace, and that causes him to start eating punches. And again, when he gets back to it, right? Control, feint, control, and he's able to move off the line, and the very basic feints from Ruiz don't affect him and don't work as well. Now, there's going to be a few more really good examples. I don't know why I made this video so clear. It is actually like a breakdown of the whole fight, but again, feinting, right? And look at how he's able to land this shot for free, right? All because of the active guard, right? Ruiz is going to think it's going to be a jab, so he tries to parry it. So that hook has been set up by the consistency of his jab and his lead hand control, right? Getting him to touch gloves with him and then, landing this great shot. But then Joshua gets wild and starts wanting to unload punches on him, This, in my opinion, would be a great time for him to meet Buddy McGirt, and Buddy McGirt to tell him the same thing that he told Kovalev. Hey, man, you're not going to knock everyone out. Don't worry about that. Just outbox this guy. And that would be a great tip for him when fighting him in the rematch. You just maintain control. Don't worry about throwing lots of punches. And then again, Joshua's going to slow down here. And look at how much less he's transitioning his weight versus how often Ruiz is still transitioning his weight as he comes forward. Again, right? Changing the tempo and no longer fighting at the tempo that Ruiz was giving him. So when he feints him here, he just gets stuck, right? Because he's not on the same rhythm, and he just starts eating punches for no reason again. And again, the same thing, right? Comes forward, he's not transitioning his weight, he's kind of stuck, he's not expecting anything, he's not active in his guard, and he winds up just getting easily feinted out of position and eating those shots. And again, Joshua lands a good shot, and then gets stuck on the line. He does a decent job right here, right? Boom, of getting his guard back up. But notice how after he throws his right hand, he falls off balance. We're going to talk about this a little bit later too. It all kind of ties into the footwork that I was talking about. But again, Joshua going back to controlling him, feinting him, leaning onto his front foot, controlling him with the lead hand, and then again, giving Ruiz a boxing lesson, completely controlling him as he tries to come forward. He's able to break all his layers of offense as well as break all his layers of defense, and land big shots basically whenever he wants to, as long as he maintains this tempo, right? And this doesn't take a lot of physical energy. It does take a lot of mental energy. But again, right, when he starts falling off, he's no longer on that same rhythm right here, and he starts eating punches, right? And we'll talk about why he falls off rhythm here a little bit later. I just want to finish the rest of the fight and kind of show you guys what I mean. But again, doing a great job of constantly feinting and keeping Ruiz guessing. But then he starts slowing down, and as soon as he starts slowing down again, right, he's not on the same rhythm, and you see that Ruiz is feinting, giving him more transitions. 1, 2, 3, right? And he starts landing punches again. And again, when he's on the line here, right, Ruiz is transitioning his weight more often than Joshua is. Again, the same thing here. There's a little bit more here going on, right, with this body shot that lands. After this body shot happens, Joshua starts protecting his body with his lead hand, right? And that stops him from controlling the space as well, right? Look at how he's covering his body now. His body is no longer pointed at his opponent, but it's pointed like away from him to the side because he's trying to keep a lateral motion so he can keep circling. See? But he's not controlling the space anymore, and now Ruiz is able to feint, and then land his own punches, right? Land punches because he's no longer fighting at the same tempo. He doesn't have his active guard anymore, so it's harder for him to see the punches coming and remain in a position where he can continue to react to them in the appropriate way. I hope that's making sense, you guys. But again, first contact, feint, first contact again, even though Ruiz lands a shot too, right? First contact still favoring Anthony Joshua. No one's going to sit there and say, of these two punches, Anthony Joshua's was less hard, right? But then he goes in, tries to fight him, and again, we'll talk about why this is really bad for Joshua in a second, but you can see that he gets stuck on the line there again, gets dropped, eats some big shots, but then comes back, right? And again, he has control over Ruiz after that. Let's go ahead here, right? Feinting him, throwing those shots, right? And as long as he's fighting at that same rhythm, he's able to catch him and, win first contact. And that's basically the end of the fight. But what I wanted to talk about, and I'm going to quickly transfer it to this video here. Now, when Billy Joe Saunders fought David Lemieux, I picked him to lose. I picked him to get knocked the fuck out. Pardon my language, but I picked him to get knocked out. And it's because of the film study that I did on him fighting this guy. I can't remember his name right now. Chris Eubank Jr. Now watch as he shoots his jab here, right? He had this terrible flaw where after he would shoot his jab, he would get stuck on the line. And David Lemieux is a great counterpuncher with his left hook. And I thought that David Lemieux was going to knock him out with that left hook. But watch as he gets stuck on the line. Look at how fast as Billy Joe Saunders is. And as, I don't want to say as talentless, but the boxing IQ of Chris Eubank isn't that high. He's just a great athlete, right? But he was able to catch him with so many shots, right? And again, very similar tempo, right? Look at how Joe Saunders, BJS is able to feint and then come forward, explode out of his guard, and keep Chris Eubank Jr. reacting, right? You can tell that he's faster, but then after he shoots his jab, he gets stuck there, right? Now when we get to this clip, I want you to focus on Billy Joe Saunders' foot, right? Look at how he steps, and when he shoots his jab, he steps on his front toes, right? So that he can explode back, right? What he's hoping to do is step and then bring his weight back. But unfortunately, when he shoots that jab, his hips go with him because all the weight is able to flow through his toes, right? Now, I know that doesn't make a lot of sense, but watch it again on the side, right? When he shoots that jab, look at how his hips follow through, right? They follow through. And that's because when you throw your jab like that, you want all your weight going into your heel, not into your toes, because your heel is what's going to catch your weight so that you can shoot that jab and then transfer your weight into your right hand. You don't want your weight to follow you when you throw your jab because then you're not going to have any power in your right hand, right? But also you don't want your hips to get stuck flying forward, right? Just try it, right? Take a hard step and keep all your weight in your toes, and then take a hard step and keep all your weight in your heel. right? And you'll feel the difference. And this is why I picked against Billy Joe Saunders to get knocked out. I thought he was going to get killed, right? And again, you can see when he shoots that jab, he gets stuck there on the line. Now, Billy Joe Saunders, when he actually fought David Lemieux, watch the difference in his technique. He shoots, it's still not quite in his heel, but notice when his foot gets there, it touches the ground completely, right? So his weight is able to fall into his heel, and he doesn't get stuck there, right? I thought that punch right there, this hook, was going to be the death of him, right? Because you can see how easily Chris Eubank Jr. was able to land it against him. Wait, maybe if we go back to this. Yeah, you can see how easily Chris Eubank Jr. was able to land it against him. And because of that flaw, right, again, landing it right there, because his weight goes from his toes, goes from his hips to his toes, instead of in this fight, where it goes into his heel, right? And we'll see, again, when he shoots that shot, because of the fact that he's not putting his weight on his toes anymore, he's able to move and transition his weight off the line and basically fight circles around his opponent, right? Now we'll take a little bit more closer of a look here, right? As he does it a little bit there too in his heels or in his toes. But look at when he shoots the jab, and then the right hand can come so freely after it because he stays in position to shoot the right hand after he does that. And that's because of the fact that he doesn't transfer his weight through his heel. Again, or through his toes. Again, when he shoots the jab here, right? Boom. His weight goes straight into his heel, and that allows him to transfer his weight from his back foot to his front foot through his right hand rather than through his jab. Just much better technique. And because of that, he winds up dominating Lemieux. Now watch as he steps with his jab here, right? Again, into his heel, right? He doesn't shoot the jab right there, but it's the same motion, right? Boom. And again, that allows him to be much more fluid with his weight transitions as well as with his jab in general. Now, I hope that made it a lot clearer, but as you can see, boom, his foot comes down flat instead of all his weight going into his toes. And then he's able to land those shots and do all that stuff. I think this is the best clip, right? Even though he doesn't throw the jab, it's the same, right? The same motion. Now let's get back to Anthony Joshua. And what we're going to look for is the same technique, right? Notice when he shoots his jab here, all his weight is in his toes, right? And he has to, his back leg kind of shuffles with him to the side because when he steps with his toes, his hip is going from a stationary position to transferring the weight to his front foot, like you're throwing a left hook. Okay, it looks like it's still there, guys. So I'm going to continue recording. I'm not sure if it's going to cause a break in the video. I'll have to see after, but as you can see, when he steps, even when he's circling, he's stepping on his toes. And this causes a weight transition through his heel, or through his hips, that he doesn't want. And again, when he shoots the jab there, stepping on his front foot, right, on his weight, and look how his hips go with him, right? That makes it much harder to shoot a right hand after. And again, when he shoots that shot right there, this one is a little less bad because it's a hook, and you want your hips to transfer, right? But notice how his back foot's not on the ground, so he's not stationary. That makes it so much harder for him to move off the line after. Again, this is going to be something that he needs to work on. He needs to practice that. And you can see the problem with it right here in this clip. Look at how his weight, after the punch is already landed, his weight continues to shift forward, right? It looks okay here, but again, in situations like this, where your opponent is countering you, he's not able to get off the line because his hips are still moving forward when Ruiz's shot comes through. And again, this will be the best clip right here. Not here, but as he steps forward, all his weight in his toes. And it makes it very hard for him, after he throws that jab, to get his weight back. Because also when you throw your right hand, you want all your weight to go into your heels after you throw your right hand, right? And that's going to be something he needs to work on. So just watch Joshua's left foot right now. And he shoots that jab. And as he shoots that jab, you can see his weight transfer. Notice there's a lot of instability in his technique here because his weight keeps going. Notice his back foot is not planted on the ground either. He has no control over his back foot. He has to kind of angle and vie for positioning after. But look at how long it takes him to get off the line again after he shoots that shot. Oh, and I guess I have another clip. And again, right, when he shoots the jab, his heel is in the air, and he kind of gets stuck there. And that allows, right here, in this particular instance, Ruiz to land some body shots because Joshua's off balance. He kind of lunges in. Now, it's going to be very, very, very important, number one, for him to fix this kind of small detail. That he needs to fix the way that he throws his jab. Otherwise, he's going to constantly find himself off rhythm with Ruiz after he throws punches. And again, that's the theme of this, right? That's the theme of the whole video, is being on rhythm with your opponent, making sure that you can fight at the same pace and transition your weight at the same pace as them so that you're always in position to feint, block, counter, slip, roll, and punch your opponent in the face. Anyway, I've been really, really, really excited about this fight. It's one of my favorite fights of the year so far. Fantastic fight from Ruiz. I picked him to win in my boxing articles. I thought his active guard was going to be much more effective. As you saw, when Joshua slowed down in his active guard, sorry, I got a message. When Joshua slowed down in his active guard, Ruiz's active guard was able to take over. He was able to feint him out of position and find himself in a better position to land shots. And I did think that that was going to be the case through most of the fight. But Joshua really impressed me with his boxing IQ in this fight, with his control, with his active guard, with everything that he did. He just really, really, really impressed me. Anyway, that's what Joshua needs to do as a start for the rematch with Ruiz, is find a better way to maintain his balance in his hips by transferring his weight and keeping his weight when he steps in his heel. Right? A lot of fighters will step when they step to their left. They step with their toes. But you don't want to step through your toes. You always want to step through your heel and allow your weight to transfer and hold in your hips so you have a better right hand. But anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Anybody who made it through this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks, guys.